Thank you, Mayor Sohi and Council. My name is Jacob Dawang, and I'm an advocate with Grow Together Edmonton. Next slide, please. So a little bit about us. We're a totally volunteer organization, and our goal is to make and maintain housing affordability in Edmonton and Canada more broadly. And today we're going to talk about tackling the fundamental problem of building more homes where people want to live. Next slide, please. So it might be a bit of surprise, but our position is that the district plans need to be revised before being approved. And I say this with all respect and thanks to administration who put in a lot of hard work and who always listen to our point of view and feedback throughout the process. Next slide, please. I won't belabor the point because this has been talked about a lot, but Edmonton is growing really, really fast. And if we look at cities larger than 1 million, we're only second behind Calgary. Next slide, please. Without a change of course, with this enormous growth, housing costs will only go up. Despite steps that we've taken forward with open option parking, zoning renewal, we still haven't made headway on this fundamental problem. This shows in the CMHC market report for April 2024, where they predict extremely low vacancy rates and continuing rent and home price increases for the near future. Next slide, please. So, from our point of view, the most recent draft has been improved with these two policies, but not enough. And they are not strong enough. 2.5.2.5 is only for low-rise, and the number 6, the language of consider, is not enough support for higher density in key locations. Next slide, please. And this shows with the recent rezoning in Windsor Park, where half of council thought that district plans did not show enough support for this common sense rezoning that the vast majority of council agreed makes sense. Next slide, please. So here are our recommendations. I won't go through all of them. You can read more in our written submission, but I'll focus more on housing near transit and post-secondary institutions. Next slide, please. So we need to provide outright support for mid-rise near LRT, and this means within 800 meters of each station. We want people to use transit more for a lot of the reasons talked about today: less traffic, less greenhouse gas emissions, but we need to make more efficient use of our billion-dollar assets, and this means more people living near transit. And here I've given an example of McKernan Belgravia, but it's not just this station. You can go on my website. A lot of other stations look exactly like this, where most of the area will be reserved for low-rise. Next slide, please. We have to adopt an approach like BC, which has 3 key differences with district plans. They use a radius of 800 meters, they permit at least mid-rise throughout, and it applies to every rapid transit station. Next slide, please. And the ground is starting to shift. The emerging consensus is 800 meters and higher density throughout the area. To gain access to the future permanent public transit fund, the feds are going to require an 800-meter radius and higher density housing throughout near LRT and post-secondary institutions. Next slide, please. Which brings me to the next point. We need to have outright support for mid-rise near post-secondary institutions. U of A, for example, is growing a lot, 16,000 over 10 years. That's equivalent to the population of Garneau, McKernan, Belgravia, and Windsor Park combined. It's more than that. So where will these students live? Well, I think that we should be allowing students to live close to the university for the reasons that I believe the VP external for MacEwan said. I'm running out of time, so I'm gonna go to the next slide. The last point is that node and corridor boundaries should be open to future changes to remain flexible. So this was a change that was put in the most recent draft that says that this map 3 in each of the district plans is the full extent of the nodes and corridors to 2 million people. I don't think this is a smart thing to be doing. I don't think we should be telling Edmontonians that these borders are set in stone until 2 million. Unexpected things will happen, and we shouldn't be tying our hands like this. Next slide, please. So we can't be giving Edmontonians false expectations about growth. We have to be making the tough decisions to permit more forms of housing in more places as we grow like never before. Next slide, please. So I'll just finish off by putting our recommendations back on the screen. Thank you for listening, and I hope you consider our recommendations. Happy to answer any questions.
Yeah. Thank you so much for joining us. Next